How did you start collecting wildlife and Western art?
Actually, the first piece of art that Jaffa and I ever bought was a Kouba of panfish in 1962. And we rapidly fell under his spell and visited him annually for the next 10, 12, 15 years. And as you would suspect, usually left with another Kouba, as well as some other wildlife images that he recommended to us. But it all started with that Kouba.
Les Kouba referred to his many friends and acquaintances as dudes. You were one of Les's dudes. Any other unique Kouba traits come to mind?
Oh, Lord. Well, there was nobody in the world that answered his telephone or her telephone the same way that Les Kouba did. And it was a pure joy to call the gallery and hear him say, "Kouba speaking." You knew right then you were in his clutches. I mean,
You have a long history with the Cowboy Museum in Oklahoma. What are your memories of Les's visits to Oklahoma?
Les came to Oklahoma for 4 or 5 years to participate in an annual art show at the Cowboy Museum in Oklahoma City. And once or twice he stayed with us, and we'd have a dinner party, and he'd introduce him to people, which he loved. And he'd do a demonstration after dinner, just sit down and set up an easel on a chair. He'd use a chair, set up his paints, and do a paint watercolor for the folks that had come to dinner. Then there'd be a fist fight to see who was going to get the picture that we'd just seen created before our eyes. And all the while he was painting, he would talk to us, never miss a beat. He was so knowledgeable, so skilled, so dexterous with his art, and familiar with his subject matter, that he could create a gorgeous, large sheet watercolor while he's carrying on a conversation with you. And those were very memorable experiences.
Wow.
When you first met Les and acquired your first wildlife painting, were you aware of how talented he really was?
No, we bought the painting simply because it was something that spoke to us, because we had done a lot of pan fishing with our kids, and it was pretty, and we liked it, and we had no idea of the depth of work that Les did, both commercially and for collectors. We had no idea of his knowledge of the history of wildlife art, the history of Western art. And over time, he was a terrific mentor for Jaffa and me at the very threshold of our art learning experience, and gave us a background that I'm not sure we could have found anywhere else, because we clicked as people. We had fun together.
Les started his career as a graphic artist and illustrator. Do you think his diverse background led to his future success as a wildlife and Western artist?
Yeah, the generation of artists that came to maturity in America in the 60s, 70s, and 80s, who did Western and wildlife, had all cut their teeth as illustrators
Okay.
for Field and Stream, Outdoor Life, Schmidt Brewing,
Mm-hmm.
Land O'Lakes butter. I mean, they all had honed their skills, learned their craft, working for these art editors that must have been miserable people to hold your livelihood in their hands. But it made them diverse, dedicated. Their their skills were unique. They came out of a period in time when drawing and accuracy and developing a story was what they were hired for.
Les has a reputation as one of the greatest wildlife and Western artists. In your opinion, how was that reputation earned?
I think Les's reputation was built not only on his craft, but on his gift and his genius. He understood the places that he painted. He could recreate them in the viewer's mind, give the viewer a sense of actually being there on the lake or in the cornfield. And he could do it across a wonderful spectrum of subject matter. We talked about him doing Western subjects for the museum's early miniature shows. And he had that same ability to translate the dry, bright sunlight of the high country in the West as equally to the way he could make you feel the humidity on a summer evening close to the lake, or the bright dryness and crystal clear air of approaching an ice house on Mille Lacs. He knew the places that he painted, he knew the subjects that he painted, and he was able to present them to us in a totally believable version. That's a gift.
Les Kouba owned the American Wildlife Art Gallery and had an extensive collection of artwork by artists such as Frederick Remington, Charles Russell, Philip Goodwin, Frank Hoffman, Lee Jacques, Carl Rungus, and others. Les was quoted as saying, "When I buy Western art, I buy the real good ones. I always try to find the heavies." Did you see these other artists' works when you visited Les's gallery?
Yes, and he loved to talk about those artists. Goodwin, Hoffman, Remington, Russell, and how they had influenced the way he saw the natural world, the way he wanted to paint the natural world. And he felt very fortunate that he had some tools, better cameras, for example, to use than they had had. And he thought that was a responsibility for him because they were his inspiration. And he wanted to do as good a job as he felt he was capable of in trying to measure up to that kind of a yardstick. Yeah, he'd say those dudes could really paint.
What would Les Kouba, a master wildlife artist, want his legacy to be?
I suspect that the legacy that Les would want more than all others would be for people today to enjoy his art as much as those of us enjoyed his art, living with his art, watching him create his art 50 years ago. I can't imagine a legacy that would mean more to him than to think that people today are equally responsive, equally appreciative equally knocked out by the way he saw the outdoor world.